Welcome to the Sustaining Creativity Podcast. I'm your host, Amari Reesberg. Over the past several years, I've combined my degrees in acting and somatic psychology to share my sustaining creativity techniques with performers. And now I've decided to share it with a bigger audience that includes you. I believe we are all creative, and this podcast is all about that. I'll be interviewing people from all backgrounds, ages, and creativity experiences to share just how creative we all are. Today, I'll be chatting with Kimberly Joy, singer, adventurer, and audio professional. Please enjoy Kimberly Joy. Welcome to the Sustaining Creativity Podcast. Today I am here with Kimberly Joy, singer, adventurer, and audio professional. Welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thanks, Mari. It's really nice to be here.
You are so welcome. I'm super excited to chat with you about creativity and hear about all the things that you do. But before we get to our creativity questions, why don't you take a couple of minutes and just let our listeners know a little bit more about who you are and what you do.
Okay. All right. That's always a big question, isn't it?
It is. Absolutely.
Yeah. I was thinking about it as I was getting ready for the podcast, and I feel like I have two sides of a coin, right? So I have my professional life, my job, and then I have my creative life, and they are pretty segmented. And so it's been interesting thinking about how to talk about them together. But one side of the coin is I am first and foremost, I'm a musician. I am a singer. I went to school for music. I went to CU Boulder for voice performance in college. By the time I got out of college, I was extremely uninspired. I could not sing any more music by old dead white guys. And I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was like, okay, now what? Now what? And so I went ahead and just kind of let it fizzle for a while. I got back into singing when my partner, Kylie, she learned how to play guitar because she wanted to hear me sing more. And around it was really, really sweet. And so around that same time, we started discovering this community of highlining. So highlining is like slacklining, but over canyons and stuff. So later that summer, we ended up at a highlining gathering. I'm not very good at highlining. And I was like, what do I bring to this space? And my partner, who was growing as a highliner, asked me if I would sing to her while she was highlining. And so she gets on a highline. She's wearing a squirrel onesie and a flying squirrel onesie. And she walks the highline, and I sing to her, Hallelujah by Leonard Cohen, and then La Vie en Rose. And it was the best walk she'd ever had on a highline to that point. And that was the beginning of what I like to call adventure singing.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I love this. Keep going.
So what I do as an artist is adventure singing. I love to go out to these beautiful places. I find, natural amphitheaters, and I love singing there and sharing my gifts. And it's been a really unique way to contribute to this community, which has since expanded from highlining to, base jumpers and skydivers, and just this amazing crew of people who are so into living life to its fullest and bringing your gifts in whatever way possible. So, recently, the adventure singing has been evolving. My artist name is the Siren of Nevernoise. which
Mm.
there's a story behind that. I think I'll get into that a little bit later. But
Mhm.
so as Siren, I have pioneered something called Sky Siren Serenades.
What is that?
Uh, it's uh, it's a collaboration with a friend of mine in Moab who owns a hot air balloon company.
Oh my gosh, that sounds amazing.
So I had this idea last fall and reached out to him and was like, hey, what would it be like if I came and sang serenades to people in the hot air balloon basket? And he was like, yeah, totally. Like, come out and let's try it. So so I'm like working on I'm doing this because I love it right now, and
Mhm.
because I have this amazing opportunity. Like, I'm about to go to Moab for the next 2 months,
Mm.
to hop on the balloon whenever there's an extra seat, to just kind of like practice and refine the
Yeah.
offering of what I'm doing. And then hopefully, not hopefully, and then I will have an offering around it where people can enhance this whimsical
Mm.
experience by adding serenades by a like fantastical singer.
Oh.
So adventure singing is my passion for, like, as what I'm doing
Mhm.
as the Siren of Nevernoise. um I'm also getting into teaching singing,
Nice.
uh, so like differently than I was taught, because I was taught in a very classical way, and it was
Yeah.
like, um, it's not very unique and it didn't really encourage a ton of creativity. So I really love to teach people to sing in a way and use their voice that is just empowering to them,
Mm.
and
Yes.
helps them to express and to tune into themselves and to use their voice as a tool and a friend, and
Mm.
encourages their creativity and their creative voice. So that's one side of the coin.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Like, that's 5 coins. I love it. Awesome.
The other side of the coin is I am an audio professional. So I in 2020 went back to school to get an audio production music production certificate.
Mhm.
2020, the year of COVID. So
Yeah.
it was a really great experience, but most of what I learned had to be learned online. I
Mm.
didn't get as much of the studio experience as I wanted. So coming out of that program, I leaned heavily towards podcasting.
Yeah.
Uh, and I love working in audio because it's so close to music. It's so
Mhm.
close to this like creative practice that I have. And I love podcasts because they're really interesting. And like, I have a couple shows that I love editing them every time because I like hearing what they have to talk about, and it's something that I can get behind and then I love promoting and amplifying.
Yeah.
So my main practice as an audio professional is podcast management and production.
Mm.
So not just producing, like not just the editing,
Yeah.
but also kind of like walking people through the whole process of like, how do you launch a podcast? What do you need to know? Here's how, like, I'll put it together for you. All you have to do is press record. And then also,
Mhm.
here's how you use a podcast to create multifaceted content that you can use across the platforms to promote your
Mhm.
brand, which is like, to me, the biggest reason for most people to have a podcast would be because it's an organic, sustainable, regular way for them to create content
Yeah.
for their audience, and also they're using their voice and becoming a voice of authority in their field.
Mm.
And their listeners, because like podcasts are unique because people choose to listen to you,
Right.
and there's that human connection.
Totally.
So they have like this trust and they want to keep coming back to you.
Mhm.
So yeah, I'm all about podcasts. I'm all about, audio, music. And I mean, there's a million other projects, but like those are the main two sides of the coin.
I love it. Oh my gosh. I mean, so much creativity and joy and life. It's like, I know we could talk for hours and hours and hours, but I'm going to dive into questions because I'm so curious. What does it mean to you to be creative?
To be creative, it is a deep exploration and discovery of myself. I learn a lot about myself through my creativity. And it's also an outlet for me to express myself fully in the world.
Yes. Love, love, love all of that. Yes. Oh my goodness. Just the, connection and then expression with yourself and with others. And oh, I love all of it. Creativity is such a wonderful tool to support you in connecting to yourself, connecting with others. So I love that you bring all those pieces into your definition or what it means to you to be creative. I'm so curious, is this something that has kind of developed over time, or do you feel like it's something that had as a little kid, or when did this version of creativity arrive for you?
Um, Fairly recently. I mean, I remember, there's sparks of creativity when you're a kid. Like I loved sewing and drawing and watercolor painting but I felt that like in school all the way through college, there wasn't very much of an outlet
Mhm.
for creativity or much like encouragement or affirmation of like, you can do this. I
Mm.
remember she's now a woman, one woman who was in my choir in high school.
Mhm.
She composed and I was just mind blown that she
Mm.
could like sit down and like write. And I just like was trying to like fathom the music theory that went into it. But like, I could have been doing stuff like that too. Like I didn't really think about myself as like a songwriter. The
Mm.
only creative practice that's really like followed me through my entire life that is a staple practice for me is writing and journaling. Like the
Mm.
practice of like pen on paper
Mhm.
is my primary creative outlet.
Mhm.
But when I got out of college, like I said, I felt very uninspired
Yeah.
and really let music go for a while. I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do with this. And I
Mhm.
felt that I didn't know what my like unique voice sounded like because I had kind of been groomed to
Yeah.
sound a certain way. So,
Mm.
some people are like, oh, do I need voice lessons? And I'm like, you can get voice lessons, but like, I would look for somebody who is going to help you find your own unique voice.
Yeah.
And so I, after college, started learning songs that I really loved. But once I serendipitously found a roommate on Craigslist. His name is Adam Baird, Baerd, and he is, I call him the Bob Ross of guitar.
I love it.
And my partner and I moved in with him for 2 months. And in that time, like, I was like, oh my gosh, he plays guitar. And he is just like an improvisational,
Mm.
um, like wizard. He's a bard, he's a musician, he loves telling stories, he can like pull a song out of the air. And so living with him, I started to think, I was like, maybe I can write some songs. And
Mm.
so I was in and I really wanted to write songs that tell stories.
Mhm.
So he helped me bring to life some of my first songs, which are still, most of them are unreleased, but there's some videos, some places, maybe it's, yeah. But he helped me write my very first song was this amazing epic about a cosmic highliner.
Oh,
named
fun.
it's this beautiful, amazing song. And so he helped me find my creative voice. Like being in collaboration with someone else helped me to find my creative voice. So like collaboration is a huge tool. And since then I've also had to learn how to find it on my own.
Yeah.
Like how to write without having a guitarist. Like, I mean, I'm a singer. I don't play any instruments like that well, like well enough to accompany myself. So I just end up singing on my own, hence the like a cappella serenades and hot air balloons. But yeah, so creativity has been a more recent thing in my life. Like since graduating college, I gained that belief in myself, and I've been proving it to myself over and over again that I can write songs, because it seems like every time I write one, I'm just like, oh my gosh, I'll never be able to do one that good again. You know?
Oh, I love it. I mean, what a spectacular journey, and so much creativity and trust and belief. And I mean, all of those pieces that go into being creative in my world is you're speaking my language. But I have also heard you say that, throughout university, you really kind of lost your voice and didn't quite know where it was. And how do you face those creative challenges that you experienced?
Well, one thing that I do want to say is I am grateful for college because and all of my training through then, because I learned how to sing really well and I have like an awesome foundation.
Sure.
But how do I face the creative challenges of just, I mean, I wasn't really encouraged. And I mean, I know you can't always rely on people to encourage you. I found my way through those creative challenges by collaborating with other musicians, by doing things that inspired me, and by continuing my main creative practice of journaling, where a lot of my lyrics come through in the stories and poems that I like to write. So those are my main things.
I love it. I mean, I think, when in today's world, the word resilience is kind of this big buzzword. And I love that all of these are supporting creative resilience in your life, and how collaboration is a part of that, and journaling, all these pieces that are ways to tap back into creative spark and creative self. So thanks for reminding all of our listeners about them. I love it. Now, in terms of like everyday life, go to the grocery store, walk the dog, drive the car, or ride a bike, what are some of the everyday issues or challenges that you have used creativity to solve?
Everyday challenges that I've used creativity to solve. I think that, I mean, the everyday challenge of sometimes feeling uninspired, of maybe feeling down in the dumps, like feeling melancholy or blue, or like feeling like I'm not doing enough. Like I'm like, what difference am I making by just like following my everyday steps? And by using some of those times, like walking the dog, to turn it into a time and space to be creative, it makes me feel more whole. Because if I focus too much on one side of the coin, on my audio stuff, on the professional side, on making money, then I really start to feel like I'm missing something. And so I have to like creatively find balance between those two. And if I know I have like a really big admin week where I have a lot to do, then like, how can I be creative in that? Like, well, maybe I can take the dogs for a walk and I can go sing in the forest. I can practice singing in the forest, or I can listen to a podcast like Sustaining Creativity while I'm in the car, that just helps me like connect to this other side of myself that like keeps me grounded in my true creative purpose.
I love that. And I love what you just said, your true creative purpose. I think that is elusive for so many people. And, you know, what, well, first of all, how did you come to know your true creative purpose? And how would you encourage others to find theirs?
I came to know my true creative purpose through a process of finding out what I was not supposed to do.
I love
Um,
it.
I mean, like coming out of college, I started a 9 to 5 job and I felt very secure and I had a really nice paycheck and it was good in some ways. But like by the end of the first year, I was like, I need to get out of here.
Yeah.
I was like, I can't do this. There's like something missing. There's not this balance. And then I went and worked for a company building teardrop camping trailers because I was like, maybe I need to use my hands to work. And so I did that. And then I got really bad carpal tunnel.
Oh no.
And so I was like, well, that's not it.
Yeah.
And throughout this process, I was just kind of like learning and discovering. I was like, well, I need to be creative about how I'm going to make my living so that I can make space for doing the things that I love.
Yeah.
Um, so finding my creative purpose through doing things that didn't feel quite right, I have finally like landed on, okay, I feel like I need to be my own boss. I need to like I need to be in charge of my own time and my own scheduling.
Mhm.
And I need to make room and space for doing what I love. So I guess doing things that weren't right, I simultaneously was still pursuing things that I love doing, like
Mhm.
going outside and adventuring and being inspired by my friends and my family and being invited by them to bring my gifts into these spaces
Mhm.
has allowed me to over and over again affirm um, that I am here to share my gifts, not to keep
Mhm.
them for myself. And so the more that I do that, the better that I feel and the more positive of an impact it has on the
Mhm.
people around me.
Mhm.
Um, and I mean, it's not just singing, it's other things that I love doing. Like, I mean, cooking can be a
Mhm.
creative practice.
Yeah.
So like I love cooking for my family, and that's like a really obvious one of how it impacts the people around me positively when
Mhm.
I'm in my element and taking care of myself and doing the creative things that make me feel really good, then my cup runneth over and I am like nourishing those around me as well.
Nice.
Um, so how would I encourage other people to find their true creative purpose?
Yeah.
Trial and error. Um, try it out, but also like continue to make space for the things that bring you joy.
Mm. Mhm.
And I mean, those things don't have to like turn into a job. A lot of the time, I've heard, that can kind of ruin it. It makes it less fun. And
Mhm.
so, you need to have time and space for things that just bring you joy because life is for living now, not when we're 65 and retired and like don't have our like our bodies and our youth about us anymore. Like it's about like we're not supposed to like come over the finish line just being like, oh yeah, well I worked 40 hours a week for, every week of my life and yeah, that was great. Like it's like we're supposed to be coming over the finish line like battered and well worn and happy
Yes,
with like what we've done and with a lot of stories. That's something I would say.
absolutely.
Yeah, like seek experiences that will give you good stories.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yes,
Hmm.
totally. I mean, as you were talking, it was reminding me of uh, I think it's maybe a quote that I came up with, but I'm reminded of it, of how creativity is the balm for regret.
Mm. Hmm.
That, crossing the finish line. I don't want to regret things that I wished I had done. I want to have done them. And I want to tell you the story about how I did them when I get there. So I love that. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for all of these tidbits and pieces and sharing your stories with me and our listeners. I just have one last question for you. What does it feel like in your body to be creative?
The biggest thing is that I feel like I'm in my body versus being in my head. Like when I'm working, I'm focused. I'm, maybe I'm hunched over at my computer at a coffee shop or something, and I'm like listening really hard to what I'm doing. And I might not be very in my body. But when I am creative or like really expressing myself fully, I feel like I'm in my body, particularly with singing, because I believe that your voice is not just in your voice box, but it's a full body instrument. And so like I use my voice to feel my entire body. So how does it feel in my body? I feel like I'm in my body and I feel pleasure from that.
Yes, I love it. So great. And I mean, as you were talking, I was like, yeah, I feel it in my body too. It's so fantastic. The best. It's the best feeling. Well,
it's so good.
Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me. If people want to learn more about all of the things that you do, how could they go about doing that?
So two sides of the coin. If you would like to follow the adventures of the Siren of Nevernoise and hear more about her story and where she comes from, then I would go to www.sirenofnevernoise.com. It's Nevernoise, so it's like Neverland, but never noise. Nevernoise is the moon of Neverland, which is something that most people don't know.
I didn't know that. How cool.
Yeah, and then I'm also on Instagram at Siren of Nevernoise, and I do have a Patreon as well. My patrons help support creating content like the adventure singing videos, because I'm a very non-traditional musician, so I don't really release music, I make videos. And then if you are interested in having a joyful and creative collaborator on your podcast, then I would look at KimberlyJoyVoice.com, or I'm on Instagram at Kimberly Joy Voice.
Perfect. I will put all of that in show notes. People can easily access it and find you. And thank you again for taking the time to chat with me. It has been such a treat. I have thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yay. Thank you so much, Mari.
You are so welcome.
Thanks for listening to the Sustaining Creativity Podcast. We'd love to keep in touch, so follow us on Facebook and Instagram. We are at Sustaining Creativity. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. Tag your friends and family so they can listen too. We love to hear from you, so leave your reviews, comments, and questions. Check out our website, sustainingcreativity.com, for upcoming offerings and creativity coaching. Tune in Tuesdays for our next episode. And remember, with creativity, anything's possible.